Hi patrons and welcome into the studio. So I have been coming up with some brand new Valentine's card ideas and it's amazing, we're into our 5th year of YouTube and I still keep getting inspired and thinking of new things and yeah, it's really cool. So isn't it wonderful to be constantly wanting to come and sit down and watercolor, and occasions like Valentine's Day are a great opportunity to show your love with a little bit of time and thought and care by making a handmade card. So today on YouTube we're going to paint this very sweet little matchbox card design, which just happens to say the perfect match. A rather cheesy pun for Valentine's Day, but that's what it's all about, isn't it? So grab your paints and let's get started. I have a piece of watercolour paper, which is 6 inches by 4.5 inches, and I've scored it down the middle to make a nice score for the card, which leaves it as a 3-inch by 4.5 inch card when folded. I think around Valentine's Day, I approach it with the slightly sort of tongue-in-cheek approach, but I also love the sort of little token sense of doing a card, like just a fun little thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a rectangle on the card, just a nice little one that sort of sits nicely within the card, and there we go. It's always useful to have a little set square, and what we want is essentially the matches poking up out of the matchbox, but that's pretty much all you need for the design, for the basics. And then really it's kind of up to you in terms of how you want to create your design on your matches. You could look at actual matchboxes if you wanted. I like the idea, I'm very into quite folksy hearts at the moment, so I'm going to, if I find the middle point, it's kind of there, isn't it? And make my heart sort of come out and in. Maybe it's, the good thing is with this sketching point, you can get it how you want it. So I've got a nice little heart, and then I want to put in a little banner. So I did a little curve coming over the top, and then what I do, a little zigzag, a little Z, and then little line up, and then just imagining another little Z really. And I'm going to put the perfect match on there, which I think is quite cute. And then in here, I think we can do a little pattern of some flowers growing. And then I quite like the idea of some birds. So let's do a really simple bird shape. So I'm trying to match them up either side. So that's the challenge, the main challenge with these things. But what I enjoy is the fact that these are quite simple and silly, and they can be just a little bit sort of simple as well with the drawing. So we're going to get the wing in the middle there, and then so that little curved line comes in, out to the wing. I think when you're doing something symmetrical like this, it's a really good idea to just go slowly and do each side in those small increments. Do a lovely fanned tail.
That's not bad. And then we'll have some very simple flowers. Because again, these need to be fairly symmetrical. And maybe a heart here and there. And yeah, that's pretty nice. I like that. So what we must do before watercolouring is we must just reduce the heaviness of the pencil. So of course, if you want help with your drawing, you can pause the video, do a screen grab, screenshot, and use it as your guide. Or I really hope that some of you will have used this just as a basic kind of inspiration and are coming up with your own designs as well. It's what we always love to see. But whether you're doing that or not, the most important thing is now making your pencil a whole lot lighter by using a kneadable eraser. And what I like to do is I like to roll it, because it doesn't leave any residue if you just roll it, and it just gets rid of the pencil. But there's other bits of pencil that I do want to properly get rid of, so I have a hard eraser. Just a little, I mean, honestly, this is just a little nubbin of something I've had. We do sell hard erasers in our essential watercolor kit that I really rate and really love. So yeah, have a little look at those as well. And the other thing you might want to do is just create a sort of slightly wobbly, soft border. Which, yeah, you can keep adding to all these things. You might want to put little extra hearts in, extra little flowers, little bits and pieces, but I am happy with that, and I think it's time to get painting. So I decided to take Opera Rose in a quite diluted concentration and paint it all around the background, basically. And that means I will leave my heart shape, the big heart, unpainted, and then, or just do a really, really light wash of something. I don't know, I'm a big fan of pink and red and orange all together at the moment. That's the nice thing. When I sort of, whilst of course I plan my YouTube content, I sometimes leave a few things to how I'm feeling on the day in terms of the colours I'll choose or the design I go for. But that can be painted in quite nicely with a size 0 brush. It's not the largest brush, but you want to be able to have control to really get in those corners. So that's looking cool. I am actually starting to wonder about Pyrrole Orange, this colour here. I think that could be really fun as a very pale colour to have. And what if we did a slightly stylized little gap? And of course I'm painting really nice and dilute so that we can layer up on top really easily. So we're going to get basic washes in. And the other reason I'm using that tiny gap is so that I can paint whilst the pink is still in the process of drying. So yeah, we'll get all our washes in and then we can start doing some detail. That's looking lovely and all dried. So now it's time to do some layering over the top with some lovely strong colours. So we've got cadmium red here, which is going to be a lovely layer on top of that. It's just so cheerful and vibrant. But then probably a slightly unexpected colour. When you have all these lovely pink tones, a great way to complement them is through the complementary colour, which pink and green. However, I want to go just a little bit more stylized, and I am going to use a slightly greeny blue in the form of Prussian blue. And that's because when we get more to the red side of things, the complementary colour goes more in the bluey direction. So this is my my colour theory, which is pretty much colour theory. But that's the great fun about art and creating, is there are helpful sort of almost, well, there are helpful scientific guides for you, but then there are also those sort of perimeters are there to be tested and pushed and broken sometimes. And yeah, the most fun you can have with art is through playing. Okay, so just getting these little hearts in. And I'm using my 4/10 brush because by this point we really need to be able to get in there nice and small. It's funny because when I film, I obviously have to keep my head out of the line of the camera, which means I have to be, I don't know, like a slightly respectful distance away from it. And when I'm painting up in the office, just for myself or for commissions and things, I think I get a little bit closer in, which is making me wonder if my I've always prided myself on having 20/20 eyesight, but maybe I'm getting to the point now where maybe I might need some glasses soon. But I have my eyes tested so they can tell me, I guess. But I was playing a bit of Mario Kart the other day to relax, and I was sat really close to the telly, and Ant was like, is your eyesight okay? I was like, oh, yes, I just, I don't know, I just kind of fancied sitting really close, and now I'm thinking about it. I will book that eye test in. Anyway, we're all good for now. So you can see I'm just using red in this lovely concentrated form. It's really rich, going on really nicely. But I am also just allowing for tiny bits of unpainted space to give it that lovely sort of lightness, I suppose. Now I can now, if I want, do all sorts of extra little patterns, and we're going to do the birds. I think I will do the birds in the Prussian blue, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have it not quite as concentrated as the red. Ooh, see, that's quite fun, isn't it? And of course the bluebirds are sometimes synonymous with Valentine's Day. And because we did our orange nice and dilute, that's working a treat over the top. It's not quite a glaze because the colour is pretty strong. But it's getting there. Okay, we're now going to try and squeeze in very small text. So what I did, I'm putting the perfect match on here. And so I wrote it out. Oh, that's fine, isn't it? Yeah, I thought that would be impossible to fit on. So the good thing is there, I know that I've actually got more room than I feared. So I can, excuse me, frog in my throat, I can paint that in with a lot less worry for what's going to happen. So I've got my 4/10 brush, and I'm going to start from the middle. Knowing that I can make my lettering just a tiny bit larger. And I'll put the H in right on the end there. as a left-hander, I often do my lettering backwards, just because of the way it's easier to write it in with a paintbrush without smudging the rest of it. But I do find sometimes it's a bit messes with my head with spelling when you're writing something backwards. Okay, so we can use a little bit more room now. You could do this with a pen, but there's something I love about the slight wobbliness. Of doing it with the brush. Okay, lovely. Now, but what about the matches, I hear you ask? Well, of course, we can now think about our lovely matches in here. So what I'm doing is just drawing in a whole ton of matches. And I was thinking about this, and I was like, well, what colours should we do them? And I want to keep it stylized and in keeping with the rest of the piece. So I think I'm going to paint them all in, maybe even more dilute than that, in the orange. Just go all the way up to the top. And then how about we do the tips in a nice bright colour, but maybe we leave two in a slightly different colour, and then that's the perfect match, isn't it? So I'm using some nice concentrated opera rose for most of the matches. And then we'll get cadmium red for the two perfect matches that make the perfect match. It's a bit of a play on words. It sort of starts to fall apart if you get into semantics, but it's all a bit of fun. And there we are. So, last few things to do. Obviously, I want to rub out this pencil box line, and so we need to be able to define the matchbox. We could outline it, or we could be a bit clever and put a little bit of shadow around the outside. So I'm going to just have a bit of fun putting one or two more little details on the matchbox, and we'll let everything dry, and we'll pop in a little bit of shadow around the outside to let it pop off the page. So that's looking really lovely, and what I'm going to do now is I've got some very dilute Payne's grey here, and I'm just going to sort of try out painting a little bit of shadow around the edge. So I've got my size 2 brush, and you know me, I love to experiment with watercolour, and that's the whole thing. We have to play. So I've done it quite sort of large on that side, and then on these two sides I might do it a little bit thinner. Clean wet brush, soften that a fraction, and I think that's rather fun. So we'll just let it dry 100%. I can rub the pencil out, and we've got a gorgeous little Valentine's card. And there you go. I honestly think that has to be one of my favourite Valentine's cards we've created over the years, because we do have tons of more tutorials that you can check out on our YouTube channel. Just type in Valentines to the top little search bit and you'll find all sorts. But of course we also have some brand new tutorials coming out on our social media platforms, which you can spot, nice little quick, easy ones. This one has just been such a joy to create, and I love the size of the card. Think about that when you're doing some card making. Of course, the larger you go, the longer it can take. And this one, you know, it looks quite simple, but it's got lots of lovely little detail in there, so it does take a bit of time. So let me know how you got on with that one. Like, comment, subscribe, let us know how you're getting on with your watercolour painting in general. We love to know that you're all enjoying creating, especially in the new year when it's a bit cold and dark. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again on Thursday. Bye!